moving into the biggest mechanical thing that I'm going to include for you is the arm action. I would assume someone has kind of told you this positioning here when the heel is touching down and the hand is below the elbow, which is below the shoulder as well. That is a red flag in terms of just overall energy flows, in terms of elbow health, in terms of allowing the stretch that you create with hip shoulder separation here, which you do a really good job of right there. A lot of people will say like, this is a drag, which rightfully so can be a drag. But I want to make sure that the path that we are taking with our hands is just allowing us to be in sync, in rhythm throughout the whole time, and to flow into its elbow spiral as it's coming through into slot. And if we have a little bit of like disconnection, I would call this like outside 90, right? So say like that's inside, that's 90. Little bit outside. Now, you do a good job of the positioning, I would say. The biggest thing that I'm looking at is like creation of hand speed throughout this phase, right? So lower body does all the work, upper body's quiet. You're really good here with the peeling of the glove side. A little bit disconnection, head's gonna start going. These are where these compensations can start to happen, dude. If we just kind of mess that up just a little bit, if we don't really leverage the arm here, then this is gonna be the byproduct. You get a limited amount of layback, shoulder external rotation. You compensate with wrist flexion. So it's like your brain sneaking in to trick yourself into thinking that you get more layback when it's just reality wrist flexion, which that wrist flexion is going to come into you being under the ball, right? More oftentimes you'll see guys with really good command. They're typically guys that have more of a stiffer wrist as they come through, limited flexion extension of the wrist, because the forearm and the wrist, right, they should almost operate as one. Now, the wrist can be involved, but I just think it's an overall real unstable joint that shouldn't really be utilized to manipulate the fingers that much. This is where I see the biggest thing, because we talk about elbow issues and we talk about isolating a lot of potential energy to be put on the elbow independently. We want to be able to cushion that. And if we just have this little bit of disconnect here when our front foot comes down and we have that little bit of drag throughout the drive phase, then we're going to be, fighting one of those uphill battles. I think like the reason why I hopped on here first thing and said I'm super excited, right, is because these are things that once we fix these, not only is it going to be like, oh, I'm seeing it, dude, my velo's up and I can just see it, but you're going to feel the difference between like getting a little bit pushy here, right? Disconnection leads to a little bit push. I would say disconnection leads to a little bit sometimes early rotation. Your rotation's pretty solid, but it does lead more so here to getting into this push. It looks like you've kind of developed this tendency to force this shoulder extension, which is forcing you into actual elbow push, when in reality, we would just want to connect. And then when it comes time to leverage, right, we release this rotational energy, and that release of the rotational energy as the flow of energy is coming up, we're capturing that as our arm is coming through into slot. What's a more powerful movement? Is it a pull or is it a push? I can pull more than I can push. So if I'm thinking about like, how can I use my pulling sensation of separation that I've created through hip shoulder separation, segmentation mechanics, if I can pull via my chest, bicep, big muscle groups, right? Shoulder, if I can pull this arm through, it's probably going to be coming in at a greater speed than if I just push my elbow into the release slot. We deal with elbow issues in general. There's a lot of hesitancy that's involved. So this is C's. This is going to paint a decently good picture, dude. Obviously, everyone's going to be different with how they go about this. You can see by looking on TV, bro. Every guy you see on TV is going to look a little bit differently. But if Dylan sees as someone that you're watching a lot, just watch this. Okay, so everything's closed. Watch how the spine initiates the rotation of the torso, right? He has to clear. And now as he clears, see the connection of his hand? Like, see how it's flipping up right there? It's very inside, right? Close to the shoulder. That's just one of those alignment pieces that now as our spine kind of coils, as our torso clears way and starts to rotate, the arm is getting pulled through to then increase the layback, to then increase this pinball machine, right? Increase this whip of our arm that leads to our fingers. That's what's going to create arm speed, right? And then we pull through, we match slot, and then we finish aggressively through the ball. And I know a lot of times with kids, There's, like I said, with the environment, a lot of times when kids grow up really fixating on like location and trying to throw the ball exactly where they want, that'll be a piece that comes up where their elbow starts to get out in front and they'll try to pinpoint the ball like we're throwing darts. You know what I'm saying? Instead of just like the environment of, okay, I don't really care where it's going, right? I just know I want to try to throw it far. And if you do that and you just tell your brain like, hey, that's the task, it's going to more than likely do that, over time. I really do believe in that. And I've had a lot of good success with simplifying the entire development process itself, dude, and like not being so articulate and thinking, what do I got to do today? What do I got to do this. I got to feel that. I got to feel that. You're 16, bro. My goal for you is to be a kid and to continuously enjoy this sport and continuously enjoy the practicing of this sport. Like I said earlier, the biggest one, first mechanical component you're going to see is arm action. The goal is to connect before leverage, right? Connection is just keeping our hands a little bit closer to center. Think about like a figure skater, right? You ever watch figure skating? Watch them jump, right? They got to go doing like a 720 jump. Watch what their hands do. They have to center to express out, right? Connect center to express out. Same thing with where our hands work. But if we're out and then try to get back to center, there's going to be that missed time. So arm action, focus on connection. I'm going to give you a ton of different athletic progressions, okay? If you want to feel athletic, make sure you're doing athletic things. Having ground balls, throwing long toss throws like way up in the air, or, doing a backhand pull down throw. Like little things like that, dude, it really does go a long way. So a lot of external tasks, arm action progressions, you're going to see a lot of progressions in there with a counterbalance, like a 2-pound plyo ball in your glove hand, because remember, when we're young, dude, we don't have a lot of stability within our own being. We lack a lot of the authentic stability that is required to produce high power output in a throw. It's just reality. It's no one's fault. What we can do at a younger age is just to provide us with some sense of external stability with like a counterbalance, stuff like holding band resisted stuff that increases the demand for stability. So you then have a little bit better ability to express the force that is required, which then fine tunes the actual movement itself when we align ourselves to allow our major muscle groups to take over. That's the biggest piece.